and transforming your relationships. And tonight, I'm so excited to welcome to the show Nicole Goodman. She is a women's identity expert and the host of the Femaling podcast. So I'm so excited to have you here with us to talk about self-care for ourselves and for our children. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so pleased to be on your channel because you've been on mine and you were so amazing on mine. So I hope I give you the justice that you gave to me. I really do.
Well, this is new for me. You've been doing it a long time, so it's like your profession. You actually just started a second podcast now, haven't you?
I have. Yes. We've done like a semi launch, and I'm doing it with my co-host Laura Mishkon, and it's actually about self-care. It's on self-care itself. It's called the Self-Care Club.
Exactly. So I'm really excited about that because I think we could all use that right now, as you know. And I forgot to mention one really important thing about you. Probably the most important thing is that you're a mother of two lovely girls, a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old. And I think that's really important for everyone to know because you're in the thick of it with the rest of us. So it's kind of, yeah. And we were talking before, and I think this is I'm so glad you brought this up because you coach a lot of women. And one of the things you said you're finding is that with many of your clients, what they're noticing is that their normal self-care routine just isn't cutting it right now, right? It's like it's not even scratching the surface of typically their normal self-care. They'd feel good, they'd be able to function, and they're doing that self-care, but it's actually not helping the way it would. So what are you hearing? Tell us a little bit more about that.
So I've noticed it in myself. Mainly, and obviously I'm hearing it from my girlfriends. I mean, they haven't put it in that language, and from my coaching clients that they're just not feeling themselves. And of course we're not feeling ourselves because we're managing so much that's going on in this pandemic, not necessarily just the pandemic, but the death toll, the lockdown, everything is so unusual right now. So everything's very uncertain and very stressful. And the normal things that you might do to look after yourself are just not going to have the same effects because you are under much more stress, much more pressure, much more worry. There's everything feels a lot heavier because it is. Yeah. So, and I was saying to you before we jumped on, normally it's just as long as I'm active during the day and I've done my exercise or I've got my steps in, I'm okay, I'm good. But it hasn't had the same effect. I mean, look, I haven't taken my foot off the pedal to find out what it's like without it because I just don't think that would be pretty. And I've noticed that in my clients, they just keep saying, I don't feel myself, and they're confused that they don't feel themselves. And they go, I've been for a walk, I've had a bath, I spoke to my friend, what is going on?
Why am I feeling okay?
Yeah, I just think it's this immense stress that we are all under, that we're kind of not even acknowledging how much stress we probably are under.
I don't even know. We're so in survival mode, even though things feel to have. It's been almost 9 weeks here in the UK, right? I guess it'll be 9 weeks for us that we've been in lockdown, and I think you actually went in a little bit earlier. You locked down quite early, and I wonder. We've all been in this survival mode. And even though it feels like things have calmed a little bit, that pressure, that stress hasn't gone away, right? So I agree. I'll take a bath. That's one of my self-care activities is taking a bath. And I will be lying in the bath worrying or thinking about what do I have to do when I get out of the bath? And normally I switch off in the bath. If anything, I might listen to a podcast. It's like my only time to listen to a podcast, but it's not even taking my mind off things. So
I completely agree. And I've noticed that on my morning walks, that's my podcast time. Well, it used to be my commute, right? And the school run. Yeah. So I then dedicate, because I'm a podcast addict. And I love that time between myself and a podcast. It's a solid practice of my self-care. And it's a solid part of my life that I adore. but I've been feeling guilty on my walks or worried. Exactly what you just said. Like, I need to check in with this one and I need to check in with that one. I need to call my parents and see if they need me to pick anything up today. Like, there's people that need me, and there's people that I want to check in on. So that's kind of taken that mode of self-care away. There's always something else to worry about.
So yeah, and so I would love to know, what have you found that is helpful? Like, have you found a strategy that you can share with the viewers that really is helpful?
So it's this good old word called boundaries. Love a bit of boundary work. And actually, I've noticed that I'm implementing that a lot with my coaching clients at the moment. Our boundaries need to be kind of really, really watertight with ourselves so that we can look after ourselves. So 3 mornings a week, if I go for my walk, instead of making those phone calls, no, I put the time aside to listen to my podcast because it brings me joy and it brings me calm and it's really necessary. So that's having the boundary with myself, setting that intention of just putting that aside because I know that I need it. Yeah. And I also know, and my clients have found the same thing. If there's certain things that they've, like you sitting in the bath, right? So, and I would say that that's actually a perfect thing that you're pointing to, because your mode of normally sitting in the bath and switching off listening to a podcast, it's not cutting it. So therefore, it's now not a mode of self-care right now. It might be tomorrow, it might be in 2 weeks' time, but right now it's not helping. So there's the boundary of actually putting in that self-care and saying, yes, I need this time. And then there's the checking in with, what is it I need today?
Yes.
And that's such an important question. And you know what, Joy? I've been asking myself that every day. And as you said before, sometimes 25 billion times a day. And sometimes the answer is quite surprising. Like, a lot of the time it's been, actually, I need a gin and tonic. That's been a mode of self-care. You know, it's not my normal mode, but it has been in lockdown.
Yeah. And you know what? So actually, that's interesting because, and I would love to know, anyone that's watching this live and viewing it, if you want to pop in the chat and just type things that you are doing for self-care that are helping you, or even just things that you're trying. So just pop those in the chat so that we can kind of help each other generate some ideas that we may not have thought of. I think that's a really important point that you said, is you're checking in with yourself every day, even multiple times. And sometimes it surprises you. Do you know what I have realized, actually? I kept saying, before any of this happened with the pandemic, I kept saying, I just need to slow down. I want to travel less, because I travel a lot for work. And I said, I want to travel less. I want to focus my work more in the UK. Well, here I've been forced to, like,
careful what you wish for.
Yes. And you know what is interesting? I literally just said this today. I was talking to another mother from a distance. We see each other every morning in the park with our daughters. And we were talking about the travel, because she also travels for work. And I said, and I had a really tough morning with Chloe, actually, this morning. And I even at one point, I got upset and I yelled. And, you know, she came to me, she looked me in the eye and she said, Mama, you hurt my feelings. Oh, now on top of everything, I had this guilt, right? And so we were talking about this in the park. And what I realized today, and the reason I got so, you know, I was triggered so quickly, is because it's been over 2 months that I haven't had just a moment to myself. And I mean a moment to myself where I'm not working, right? Or I'm not doing something that I have to do. I realized how much I need for self-care. I need alone time. And what I realized, I really need alone time. And what I realized is that travel for me, as exhausting as traveling for work was for me, it was alone time.
Yeah.
I was free. I didn't have to worry about anyone else but myself. And that in itself was self-care. So it was a big aha for me today, that I realized that. I don't know the solution. I don't know how to do it now, but.
Well, I actually think that it's really so interesting what you've just realized about yourself, is that, because as you said it kind of dawned on me as well. Of course I need my alone time. And that's, you know, me walking in the woods with my podcast, that's my alone time. Yeah. But if I'm walking in the woods on my own talking to a friend, that's not alone time for me. It's lovely and it's nourishing in a different way, but it's not alone time. So yes, now you have to find a way, or you can get curious about it because you've uncovered something so interesting, of how to create some sort of freedom, as you said, or alone time where you worry about nobody but yourself.
Yeah.
And it won't be on a plane, and it won't be traveling the world, but it will be possible somewhere now that you're aware of it. Perhaps you can find a way to find. It's about honoring those values, isn't it? Honoring the value of freedom, honoring the value of independence, being alone, just
Like I've loved my walks in nature with Chloe. We've had so much time in nature, and I love my time with her. And I was thinking, gosh, I just want to walk alone. I mean, my dog, I might be able to. My dog doesn't count. She can come with me because she's like she just brings a whole elements, a different kind of joy. But just taking a walk alone, and I agree because I've been meeting a friend of mine once a week. We do a distance walk. She lives alone, and I think it's important, to have that connection. But that, as much as I enjoy it, that also still isn't alone time, right? So that's a really good point.
And again, that's another practice of self-care, is because I've also started to see a girlfriend and do a social distance walk, and it was just so wonderful to see her face to face and be in her energy. No, I can't hug her, and that was incredibly nourishing, and it really lit me up and it filled me up, which is what all self-care has to do. It's just about nourishing you and replenishing you, isn't it? But if there's a big piece of the puzzle that's missing, you need to find a way to be able to fill it, because it's really important to you. And that's what this conversation is about, isn't it? It's about having the courage to say, this is what I need, and then putting in the boundary to make sure that it happens. And that comes from such a place of self-love and self-worth, and then you get to the self-care piece.
Yeah, and I love that you use the word courage, because I was listening to a podcast today, and they were talking about resilience. And I love the way they put this, because I always think of resilience as the ability to bounce back, right? And how they described it, and I love this, is resilience is the courage to grow. And I thought, ooh, that's powerful, because I can bounce back. I'm an optimist. I'm always seeing, what are the opportunities, right? But it's the courage to grow. And that growth can be really hard.
Yeah.
Having that awareness of where you need to grow and how you need to grow, and then putting the effort in to do it. And that was really, so to me, a lot of this is really having that courage, the courage to practice self-care, the courage to grow, the courage to have the awareness and look at ourselves. And so it was really interesting to hear it.
And the final piece of that, I completely agree with you. The final piece of that is having the courage to ask for what you need and to claim what it is you need, because that's where the real courage comes in. All of it's courageous, all of it's brave, to be able to look within and get reflective and really work out what is going on with yourself. Of course it is, and taking full responsibility for that. But then standing up and say, right, I need this. And to do that from a place of self-love, and not from a place of guilt, and not from a place of resentment or any of those places that we can fall straight head on into, but just from a place of real self-care.
Yeah. And we talked about, happy mommy, happy baby, or happy child, right? So we know that and I was sharing this term that I like. A friend of mine always says it, you have to drink while you pour, right? You have to nourish, you have to fill yourself up in order to have something to give. But when I think about that, I also think about kids and self-care, and kids practicing self-care, and how, I've noticed, actually, I've had a lot of aha moments today. I've noticed, actually, I think Chloe is sick of me. I think she has had enough of spending time with me every day. I mean, it was really, she actually said, when I came down the stairs before, she said, no, Mama, go back upstairs and work. No joke. That is what she said. Go back upstairs and work. She said it multiple times. So, because Max and I kind of go back and forth with things. And I just thought, she's really sick of me. And I think her nursery is opening on June 1st, and she only goes 3 days a week. But, Max and I are back and forth. Should we send her? Should we not? We're both working from home, and we're thinking we can manage without sending her, yet I'm kind of looking at it and I'm like, she really needs to go. She wants to go. It's not to make our lives easier, although that would be a bonus. But I see her really wanting to. She's bored. I mean, it's been every single day for 9 weeks. Like, I'm running out of ideas, right? So it's also, and we're doing tons of practicing self-care together. We do meditation and affirmations, and we do all of that. But I'm wondering what, you have 2 girls. They're both doing distance learning, right? So they're on their computers for school. And so how are you managing self-care with them? Because we know that kids have to be taught self-care. And of course we do that by modeling, but what other tips do you have for parents as far as that goes?
Oh God, we're delving into rocky waters here. My kids are quite resistant in doing things that I ask them to do. And I think that's, completely normal, completely natural, especially my 12-year-old. Yeah. I have noticed there are certain days where they are just on the floor. They are done. They are fed up. There was one day where my 9-year-old was just, by 11:30 in the morning, she was literally tantruming like a 2-year-old. She just couldn't cope. And I said, right, that's it. I shut the laptop. I said, no more school. I emailed a teacher and I said, she just can't cope with this today. And we went for a long walk. And we walked over and sat in her friend's driveway as well, because she needed to see one of her friends face to face. So I think they find it really hard to implement their self-care. One of their modes is to FaceTime with their friends. But I think that's to a point, and that's when the adult has to come in and say, okay, that's enough. That's now going into a destructive place rather than a healthy place. But it is a constant battle, and they do see me looking after myself. I'm actually really, really proud of that. They see me going for walks on my own. They see me exercising in the garden. They see me meditating. I meditate with them. Haven't done it in a while. You've inspired me. I'm going to be doing that. They do see all of this happening around them. I don't think it's rubbing off on them in the way that I would like, and I can only keep suggesting. But the one thing that I've noticed, and we talked about this before we jumped on, was that their version of self-care and my version of self-care for them is very different.
Yes.
So there's been a lot of, okay, I'm going to back off now.
I want to share that with parents. I think that's something that in Positive Discipline we share with parents all the time, especially parents of teenagers, is stopping to consider that their priorities are not the same as ours.
Yeah.
And they're not supposed to be. Their priorities right now, teenagers or preteens, their priorities are their friends. That is their top, not their family, it is their social, they are social beings, and it's their friends. And so how do they socialize now? On the computer. And of course they want to socialize in person, right? But they're being told they can't. So they're socializing the only way that they can. And it's really difficult because we know that technology is addicting. We know they're spending too much time on screens. So how do we do it? First of all, it's that awareness of just validating and saying to them, I know that your priority is your social life and your friends. And I want to support that, And I also wonder if there's a way to sit down with them and just brainstorm. What are your ideas of self-care? Let's make a list of all the things you feel will fill you up. And sit down and get all the ideas down. And then just say, can you choose just one a day? Just one every day to practice?
Oh, the minute social distancing is over, you are coming over to my house and you're going to have a good old chat with my kids.
Well, they always listen to other people, don't they, rather than themselves. I'm noticing on the chat, I see Susan said, I used to run away to the zoo, but now I just ride my bike. I love that because I love the zoo. And I have a membership to the London Zoo, and I will go by myself. Like sometimes I'll just go to the zoo by myself and just sit I love penguins. I love watching the penguins swim. Like, it sounds weird. And it's interesting because I haven't been riding my bicycle. because I don't have the time alone to do it. And Chloe's too young, right, to ride a bicycle.
Yeah.
So I've been missing that a lot because my bicycle is my commuting. I love to commute on my bicycle. And my kids are taking, I'm not sure what blind class is, which means I cannot vacuum or make any noises. So I switch self-care from nighttime to school time. So
that's interesting, to switch up the time that you practice your self-care.
Yeah. So if you
that's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think that's an important point of being flexible and adapting. We have to adapt to the situation. And that's, again, part of resiliency, right? Is adapting to the situation.
And also, yes, and adapting to how you feel. And then your self-care needs to mold around that rather than you molding around your self-care. Because, like, for example, I absolutely love to exercise, and, you know, my gym is still putting on these amazing classes, and they kept me totally sane. And so I do them most days as much as I can, and they are like my biggest joy at the moment. Sunday I woke up and I was so tired. I actually got on the class, got onto Zoom, and I couldn't hear it, and, you know, the whole Zoom thing, and I just thought, no. And it was so interesting that my normal mode of self-care that I'm very solid in, actually just that checking in with myself, like, do I really want to do this class today?
No.
The answer is no, I don't. I want to go and sit on the couch, and I wanted to watch Working Mums. And that was my self-care for the morning. But I wouldn't have known that had I not have had that check-in, and then the courage and the bravery to say, no, I don't want to do this now. I want to do something else.
It's so funny that you say that. So the checking in. So first of all, I have not done any online workout classes in over 2 months. I hate working out, watching a screen. Hate it. Okay. Yeah. But I did manage, because I knew we were having this call and I wanted to be able to share some sort of self-care I was doing. I did a 7-minute workout today. There is one YouTube. It's really cheesy. It's totally cheesy, but it's a 7-minute workout. And I'm like, I can find 7 minutes in the day. And even when I say, Chloe, read a book, and sometimes she'll join me in the 7-minute workout, and sometimes she'll be doing her own thing, but I'm getting this darn 7-minute workout in.
Yeah.
I'm feeling really happy about myself. Like I'm just not feeling good because I'm not doing as much as I did. But the other thing I did for self-care, this actually made me feel so good. This is terrible that I'm saying this on Facebook Live, but I shaved my legs for the first time in a month. Quite honestly.
Can I ask a question? Right. How did you feel after you shaved your legs?
I felt amazing. I mean, honestly, just shaving my legs was like, And sometimes in the winter, you know, you'll go a couple of weeks because no one's seeing your legs, right? But the weather's been nice. I haven't been wearing, but like, I haven't done a pedicure. I haven't done, and listen, these are like first world problems. I'm okay without them. Like, I don't want to sound like I need all of these things, but these are some of my self-care things normally.
And I want to challenge that for a second, because they are first world problems. No, they're not height of importance, but they are very, very powerful. And they are the difference between feeling really shitty about yourself to feeling really great. And anything that can do that, even if it's blow drying your hair or sticking on some pink lipstick, anything that can do that, I say needs to be staying in yourself. I call it the self-care toolbox. It needs to be in the self-care toolbox.
Yeah. No, I thought, okay, I have to do these basic self-care things again. You know, I mean, there are times I go 5 days not washing my hair. And it's not that I'm not getting up and dressed and out the door. You know, I'm not staying in my pajamas all day or anything like that. But I just kind of let it go because I'm like, what's the point? And I think that's like almost like that's like a step towards like depression, you know, like that's it when you stop caring. Right. And
well, we're also not seeing anyone either. I mean, the fact that you've given me an opportunity to blow dry my hair and put on some bright lipstick is fantastic. So thank you. But I also haven't been out of gym gear. I'm in gym gear. I and after I've done my exercise class, I go and have a shower and I put on some more gym gear. And I've actually got jeans on now.
Nice.
I don't know if these are a mode of self-care or not. They don't feel very caring. They feel very tight.
Well, yeah, I don't think I've put on a pair of jeans in a while. I don't know if they'd fit me anymore. But we just have another minute or two, and I don't know if anyone online has any questions that they want to ask, or if you have any last minutes, Nicole, things that you want to share with the audience.
I would say, in terms of this topic about self-care, of how vital it is right now, and it's always vital, and it's something that I always coach about and I always talk about on all of my social channels, because women notoriously give themselves a hard time about it, and they'll jump into guilt before they jump into looking after themselves. And I love that phrase of drink while you pour, because that says it all. And it's the oxygen mask theory, isn't it? Like, you cannot help anybody from a place of depletion and from a place of exhaustion. You cannot. You're actually not helping anybody. It's actually more selfish to not look after yourself than it is to look after yourself.
Yes,
quite frankly.
I agree.
So I think it's vital. I very much fought for it within myself to look after myself every single day, and I make that choice every single day. You've inspired me to give myself a pedicure. Yeah, it'll make you feel great, Katie.
This is the problem. I love having my toes done. I hate doing it. I don't like doing it. So it's kind of like a form of self-care, but not, because it's like cooking. So it's not self-care for me. It's stressful. I like to eat healthy, but preparing it, not enjoyable. So it's really, it's really hard to find those things, but I can shave my legs. That's a good thing. So I like this. So Garcia from Mexico is saying, I made a big poster saying, Mommy is at a meeting with herself from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and placed it on my bedroom door so my kids know it is my self-care time. I love that. Mommy is in a meeting with herself, and
I love that. I love
that she's doing the same thing. So thank you for sharing that with our audience, because you're inspiring us. I love that. I have a sign on the door that says Mommy's working, which, I don't want to be working all the time. I need to have a self-care side. So thank you for sharing that. That's really great.
Yeah. Oh, and I love that, and I'm actually stealing it. I'm actually going to steal it. So the takeaway is, please look after yourselves, because it's absolutely vital that you do so, because you can't be there for anybody from a place of exhaustion. And in these times of lockdown and the pandemic, just keep checking in with what it is you truly, truly need. And don't be afraid to step into whatever comes up for you, even if it is surprising.
Yeah, I think that checking in piece is so, so important. That's great. Oh, I love this. And same here. She says, sometimes I do nothing and I watch TV. Good for you.
Well, that's what I did on Sunday morning, right? I sat down and watched the TV. I watched Working Mums, and that was self-care. Like, it wouldn't be self-care if I did it all day. That wouldn't feel good, but it's whatever makes you feel good and fill
I want
you
to
up.
say, let go of the guilt. Do not feel guilty about that. I'm like, good for you. I just think that is amazing. So we are going to have to end for today. And Nicole, thank you so much for coming on. And I would highly recommend that you guys listen to Nicole's podcast, Femaling, and the new one. Is the new one out? I haven't seen it. Can I listen to it?
Yes, so we've done the first 3 episodes, 3 or 4 episodes we've done. We've kind of done a very soft launch. We're kind of trialing a few things out, but once we're out of lockdown, we're going to launch it properly, and we're going to go big and bold with it. But there are a few episodes up there. It's called the Self-Care Club. It's a really funny listen. We take a different mode of self-care every week. We live it to the letter, and then we report back on the results. So it's cute, it's fun, and it's lighthearted.
I love that, because that's what you were talking about when I met you. Is you guys were talking about that podcast.
Right. We were having a meeting about it, weren't we?
I didn't mean to, but they were sitting so close to me, and that's how we got chatting, which was really cool. Yeah. So I'm so excited that you guys did it. So Susan says, Joy, you just read my mind. No guilt. You're good at that. No guilt, Susan. I love it. So listen, next week we have a great episode, and you might want to tune into this, Nicole. We have Angela Hanscom, who is the founder of Timbernook, which is a whole outdoor experience that they run camps and stuff for kids. And she did an amazing TED Talk. I've actually shared it on the Positive Discipline UK page. And when I saw it and I heard her, I reached out to her and said, will you come and talk to the parents? And she says actually that even on a typical, you should have your kids out in nature for 3 hours a day, which was crazy. How do you do that? But I am so curious to talk to her, and she's fantastic. So tune in next Tuesday at 8:30. And until then, stay well, stay safe, and yeah, hope to see you soon. Nicole, big kisses, and everyone,
thank you for having me.
soon. Anytime. Bye.